The terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center in New York City, in our nation's capital, and outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, brought our country to a staggering halt. 10 days later, on September 21st, 2001, the New York Mets hosted the Atlanta Braves in the first regular season professional sporting event in New York City since the attacks. In the bottom of the eighth, Mike Piazza hits a two-run home run to give the Mets a 3-2 lead.
Lopez wants it away. And it's hit deep to left center. Andrew Jones on the run. This one has a chance. Home run! Mike Piazza and the Mets lead 3-2.
It was almost like a blur to me. It was almost like a dream, sort of surreal.
Take a look at this. He's got as much power as anybody. He got the arms extended.
Basically, dig down deep and do whatever we could to get out there and do our jobs.
For WICR, I'm Alex Fasano.
Welcome back, everybody. This is The Unknown Show. I'm Bayside.
And I'm Boston.
And the last three songs you heard were You, off of Dodie Clark's EP, self-titled You. And then we have Oh Devil by Electric Guest. And then we ended with What's Getting You Down, James, off of Tom Rosenthal's sophomore album, Fen. So, speaking of things named after children. Nope, that didn't make sense anyway. No. Fen is the name of Tom Rosenthal's child. Speaking of children. Back at it again with those great references.
We're really working on our transitions this time, guys. So recently the Emmys came around, and we saw some interesting outfits in looks this year. I mean, there was definitely some fashion statements. I don't know that they were all successful, but I mean, as long as everyone felt comfortable in what they're wearing, I don't see any reason to judge everyone for it. But
honestly,
there was one big kind of fashion faux pas on the red carpet with Sarah Hyland. She was wearing kind of like an underskirt on her long dress, and she had a bit of a kind of open midriff on the dress, and the underskirt she was wearing came up over her outfit, and she didn't realize until after she had walked by all the photographers. So there's several photos of her looking shocked and trying to fix it. But she was able to joke about it later on, so that was great. But some people that like really stood out fashion-wise were Reese Witherspoon, who ended up wearing this beautiful dark coat, kind of in a dress style. And then you had Nicole Kidman, who is kind of wearing an ankle-length red gown that really stood out. But besides fashion, the Emmys were crazy in particular. Stephen Colbert hosted, so that was huge. And when Stephen Colbert hosts, you expect some controversy. He's a comedian. He is a controversial comedian. He's done political comedy for a very, very long time. So everyone wasn't sure what to expect out of him, except that it was going to be very different than what you usually see at the Emmys. So they actually had Sean Spicer come out in the middle of the Emmys intro monologue, which was interesting to see because Melissa McCarthy, who spoofs him on SNL, was actually in the audience, and they showed her reaction to seeing him on stage.
Wow.
So he basically kind of played out what he was made fun of on SNL over the past few months. He was rolling the stand with him, and he was kind of making comments about how the Emmys would be the largest crowd that would have the largest crowd that's ever watched the Emmys ever. So it was kind of a commentary on things he's said over the past few months. And Colbert himself was kind of cracking jokes about it, and it was interesting to see Sean Spicer kind of in a crowd of people who have been spoofing him for the past few months, when he's notoriously been kind of upset about the SNL spoofing. But he was at all the after parties and brushing shoulders with all the celebrities, so it was kind of a good dynamic. It felt like it was more of joke and entertainment that everyone could enjoy. So that was nice to see at the Emmys.
That's interesting. I also didn't watch the Emmys, but I hadn't heard about that, and I thought I would have.
Yeah.
Because anything political based seems to be talked about these days, so I didn't hear about that. But that sounds nice. It's always good to be able to laugh at yourself, I think.
Yeah, seeing like the joining together there. But the Emmys themselves were very, very interesting to see. Mostly because Game of Thrones was not eligible this year.
Oh. That frustrates me, though. This is my issue with award shows, is when something most recent, or it usually is the same thing, the following year is so in the past that it's kind of forgotten in your memory, isn't eligible, or then is eligible but was so long ago. Because I think it affects the voting a little more than it should, and it's human bias, so there's not much you can do about it, but that would have won. I'm also biased, but that would have won some awards.
Yeah, particularly this season.
Definitely, with like the graphics a thing in the Emmys.
Yeah, I think there's effect awards and things like that. But because Game of Thrones is not eligible, they couldn't sweep all the awards, so
unfortunately,
we saw a lot of shows get recognition that don't usually get recognition or might not have in the past. Like The Handmaid's Tale took back a lot of awards, actually. I believe
I heard
they got Best Actress. I think they got Best Supporting Actress as well. So it was kind of a wide range of awards and things like that. Like the ABC show Blackish was nominated.
Oh, that's great. I love that show.
Yeah, Kate McKinnon won again. I believe SNL won a few other awards as well. Alec Baldwin was nominated.
I heard Big Little Lies also won.
Yes,
a few, right?
Yes, Big Little Lies won a lot. I know Alexander Skarsgård won an award for Big Little Lies, who has a brother who is now in the acting world. You may know him as It in the new It movie. Pennywise the clown. Bill Skarsgård has been in acting before, but I believe he's had mostly Swedish roles until this one in particular.
Apparently, though, he's been in, if not all, mainly horror films, so he's kind of becoming a type actor without trying to be. But apparently that whole family is super talented.
Yes.
I'm forgetting how many siblings there are, but the father...
I believe there's 8 of them?
Yeah, that's what my guess was.
7 or 8?
The father is an actor, whose name I can't remember, but then...
Stellan Skarsgård.
Yes, and then... I believe half of them of the siblings are now actors, and a few of them are too young to really have chosen that path yet. Yes. But we'll see. The family's just taking over everything.
Yeah, I know it's Alexander and Bill, and then they have an older brother and a younger brother who are in acting. They have a sister who's a model. Yeah. And I believe there's 4 other younger siblings that don't really have a career path as of yet because they're too young.
Yeah, and then Alexander wasn't he in Tarzan?
Yes,
right?
Yes, he was.
Because I just kept hearing the name Skarsgård, but then never the same first name, so it gets confusing. But
yeah, Stellan Skarsgård was in Thor, actually.
Oh wow, okay. This is making sense now. All the
it's all
Swedish-esque looking characters I've been watching. But talented people, families, talented singers. So let's wrap up our show, I guess, with a few more songs before we sign out.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, it's Ken Dashow from Q1043, and New Rochelle is rocking to WICR.